Hello everyone, welcome back to the Power BI tutorial. In this video, we would see that how can you actually separate the data based upon a particular value and then export it as a CSV file from Power BI. So welcome back to the tutorial and let's start with the video. In the previous videos, we have learned how to create the stacked column charts, and then we have seen that how can we import the data from Excel and represent it in the form of a chart. So in this video we would see that once you have created a chart based upon any of the data sets, then how can you actually separate the values of a particular thing that you want to show into the tables, and then you can just export that part of data in the form of a CSV file. That is like working upon a report in Power BI. So I know that may sound a bit confusing when I'm telling it, but let us understand it with the help of an example. So I will go to my recent sources, and in the recent sources I have loaded the sample data. So when I click on it, what would happen is a connection would be established between Power BI and that sample data. Because I have already loaded it, so it was present in my recent data sources. Now I can just select any of the tables that I want. So this is my table 1 which I want to load. So I can just click on table 1. I can just check this box and click on load. This would load table 1 into my Power BI, and I can start working on it as soon as I want. So it may take some time to load the table into Power BI, and once the fields column or the fields pane is filled with some of the data, you would be sure that this table 1 has been loaded. Now you can see that our table 1 is loaded over here. The first thing that we are going to do right now is actually create a stacked column chart. Now to create a chart, we know that we need to go to this visualizations pane and click on stacked column chart. Now we need to provide it with some of the fields. So what fields we are going to provide is we want the axis to be filled with region. We want the items to be the legends, and then we want the total to be the values. Now when we drag them, we would get this kind of a chart. Okay, now let's go to the format tab and make sure that we get proper data labels as well. So you can click on and these data labels would be visible to you. If you want to get a better view at the chart, you can just click on this focus mode and just collapse all these panes, and this chart would be visible like this. Now if you just take a look at these values, we can see that in the central region 1.5k pencils were sold, worth of 1.5k pencils were sold, 2.4k worth of the pen sets were sold in the central region, and so on. So this is the individual data that has been given to us. What if we want to take a look at all the records that are present in the original data set that correspond to this particular value? That is, if we want to show all the records in the table that are of the pencils being sold in the central region. So this is the portion that has been shaded by this pink region over here, and we want to show the corresponding tables or the corresponding records that lie behind it. So how can you go with it? A simple approach in Power BI is very simple. What you need to do is just right click over here, and then you will get these different options. So this is this first option, show data point as a table. So this value is actually considered as a data point, or it is called a data point in Power BI. And if you want to show the records behind it, what you got to do is simply click on this first option, show data point as a table. When you click on it, what would happen is you would get all the records in the form of a report. If you just cross check it, so if we take a look at the region, these are all of central region, and for the item, these are all of the pencil items. Means we have got all the records over here that are of the pencils being sold in the central region. This is exactly the thing that you would do with the help of the filters in Microsoft Excel, but in Power BI you have got a much simpler approach. All you got to do is click on that particular data point, and you can just go and see that in the form of a table. The reason why Power BI is more preferred over Microsoft Excel is because of its simplicity, and this thing is a live example of the same. You can click back on report and you would be back to your chart. Here, whatever options you want, you can simply just click on it. Right click, show data point as a table, and you would be able to get their options. Okay, so this is pretty simple. Now what happens if you want more than one record at once? Suppose I want these 4 records, so I have control clicked them. Then you can just right click on any one of the records and just go to show data point as a table. And then what you would get is, despite the fact that you have been clicked on the 4 records, you would only get the records of the thing that you had right clicked on and not any other thing. So it is it is not possible for you to get like the records of all the different tables at once, because it is used for the purpose of report generation, and report generation is generally done for a particular item. Suppose you want a different approach, like I want to just get rid of this region from this or I want to just get rid of the items in this legend field. What would happen is, I would get the total value, that is total worth of the sales made in the particular region, that is in the central region, in the east region, and in the west region. Okay, now if I just right click on any one of them and go to show data point as a table, then I would be able to see all the records of the central region. So that's how you can filter the records in the chart itself. That is, you can just filter the data in the chart and you would be able to see its report correspondingly. Apart from this, if you want, like instead of region, you want it by the item. So we want for the items, that is how many items were sold. And if we go back to our focus mode, then we have got for the binder, pen set, pencil, pen, and disk. And I want to show all the records of pencil. Then I can right click on it, show data point as a table, and I will get all the records of the pencils being sold in the different regions, be it central, west, east, any other region. Okay, so that's how it works. That's pretty simple. Now the thing that must cross your mind is, how can you actually generate a CSV file out of it? So that's a pretty simple thing to do. All you got to do is first make sure that for which record you want to generate a CSV file, or for which record you want to generate a report. Suppose this is my current chart and I want a report for the binders only. Okay, so I can just go to this data point option by right clicking on it, and once I am over here, then I have got an option that I can just generate a report out of all these options. That is, I can just create a CSV file that contains all these records. Okay, so for that, what I can do is I can just click on these 3 dots, that is for more options, and the first option that I've got is export data. If I want, I can just export it. So you can just click on it, and what happens is you can just export this data in the form of a CSV file. So I want it like binders. So this data is of binders. So let's just select binders and click on save. So this data is now saved in a CSV file with the name binders. If you want to just cross check it, what you can do is actually load a CSV file in Power BI to cross check the same thing. So what you can do is just go to get data option. Here is text/CSV format. You can just go to it, and here is this binders option. You can just click on it and click on open. Then of course you gotta wait for some seconds, and then you can see that this whole data is present, and you can just compare it's same despite the fact that it is a CSV file and this was a Excel file. So that's how you can actually use this data in Power BI again and again. Okay, so we are just going to close it for a while, and there is one more important thing. So as you can see that this chart is pretty simple, and we can pretty easily extract the records lying behind any particular data source once a chart is given to us. So there is another restriction that we can put on it. Suppose we have as a developer, we have given this chart to our end user, and that end user wants to take out that report. So we can control whether that end user can actually view this report or not. So for this purpose, we have a pretty simple approach, a pretty simple option. what you can do is you can go to this file option. Here is this options and settings, and once you go to this options tab, you gotta wait for a few seconds to get this option dialog box in front of you. Now in this options you may find this current file written over here, and in the current file the last option is of report settings. Now what this report settings allows is, it allows whether we want the end users to summarize the data or not. So right now, if you can see in this export data option, we have allowed the end users to export the data from the Power BI, but if you do not want them, you can just click on don't allow the end users to export any data. So that's as per your choice. If you want the end users to export the data, you can do, or if you do not want, you can just click on don't allow. And whatever you choose, you can just click on OK and cancel to apply those changes. If you want those changes to be applied, you can just simply click on OK, otherwise you can just remove it. So that's how you can actually work with the data in Power BI. That's how you can filter the data, and that's how you can actually control who takes a look at your data and who cannot generate a report from your data. So that's all for this video in Power BI. Thanks for watching.